Blood looks different on snow. Brighter, more honest, like the earth itself is showing you something it kept hidden all year. I found the first drops on a January morning, 4 years after two teenage girls vanished from Pine Ridge. My dog Scout led me to them, bright red forming a trail through pines so thick with fog you could choke on it. The temperature had dropped to 12 degrees overnight, the kind of cold that makes your lungs ache and your bones remember every year you've lived. Scout stopped dead, hackles rising, that low growl he saves for bears and bad men. He stared at what looked like solid rock face, moss-covered, frozen over, nothing special. But I'd learned 32 years ago, when your dog knows something you don't, you listen. I moved closer, my breath fogging the air between us. That's when I smelled it. Wood smoke. Fresh wood smoke. Somebody was living up here. In winter. In terrain nobody hiked because the snow made it suicide. The cave entrance was hidden behind ice-crusted ferns. You could walk past it 100 times and never see it unless you knew exactly where to look. Scout knew. I pulled my flashlight from my pack, the metal cold enough to burn bare skin. "Stay here, boy." He sat, obedient, but his eyes never left that opening. I ducked through. The cave opened up immediate, space about the size of a small bedroom, ceiling high enough to stand. The air smelled of earth and damp and something else. Something that made every hair on my neck stand up. Human habitation, recent. My light swept the walls. That's when I saw them. Tally marks, hundreds of them, thousands, covering the rock face like some desperate calendar, grouped in fives the way prisoners count days. My hand trembled as I traced them with the flashlight beam. 1, 2, 3, 4, slash. Over and over and over. I counted quick, knowing I'd recount later, knowing the FBI would count official. Roughly 1,200 marks. 1,200 days. That was 3 years, give or take. 4 years ago, Emma Miller and Lily Chen had disappeared. The math made my stomach drop. In the corner, ratty blankets, food wrappers, granola bars, crackers, empty water bottles, a makeshift fire ring, ashes still visible. And on the walls, words scratched in charcoal. Help us. Cold. Please. My throat closed up. I moved deeper, careful not to disturb anything. The corner that had been used as a latrine, crude shelving made from branches, a collection of rocks arranged in some kind of pattern. Maybe a game, maybe prayer, maybe just something to do to stay sane. Then my light caught on metal, half buried in the dirt floor near the blankets. I knelt, my knees protesting, pulled a pin from my pocket and used it to uncover the object without touching it direct. A bracelet, silver, tarnished now, small charms hanging from it, a tiny book, a musical note, a heart with initials inside. I knew that bracelet. I'd seen it 4 years ago in the photos they'd circulated during the search. Emma Miller had been wearing it in her school picture, the one that had been posted on telephone poles and shared across every news station in the state. The world tilted. I sat down hard on the cave floor, my light still trained on that bracelet. The girls had been here, maybe for years, judging by those tally marks. Maybe recently, judging by how fresh some of those food wrappers looked. Maybe they were still alive. My hands shook as I backed out of the cave. Scout stood immediately, pressing against my leg. Good boy. Always knew when something was wrong. I pulled out my phone. 1 bar of signal. It'd have to do. Tom Brennan answered on the second ring. "May, you okay?" "Tom." My voice came out steadier than I felt. "I found something. About the Miller and Chen girls. You need to get up here now." Silence. Then, "Where are you?" I rattled off the coordinates, reading them straight from my GPS. "Ridge Trail, 2 miles past the junction. Look for Scouts' tracks, they'll lead you in. Tom, bring the FBI. Bring everyone. This is real." "On my way." He paused. "May, are they? I don't know, but someone was living in this cave. For years. And I found Emma Miller's bracelet." I heard him relay orders to someone in the background, his sheriff voice kicking in, then, quieter. "The Weather Service just issued an alert. Category 3 storm coming in. Hits in 36 hours. My stomach dropped again. "How long will it last?" 4, maybe 5 days of heavy snow. May, if those girls are still alive and we don't find them before that storm hits." He didn't finish. Didn't need to. We both knew what January in the Cascades could do. Hypothermia killed quick, or whoever had them would move them again, using the storm as cover. "I'm staying here," I said. "Someone needs to secure the scene until you arrive." "Negative? You come down now. That storm front's already pushing temperatures lower. You get caught up there." "Tom," I cut him off gentle but firm. "I've been in these mountains 32 years. I know what I'm doing, and I'm not leaving this cave unguarded. Not after 4 years, not when we're this close. The wind picked up, howling through the pines. Scout pressed closer. Tom's sigh crackled through the static. You're as stubborn as Robert was. That's why he married me. I'll be there in 40 minutes. Stay warm, stay alert. He paused. And May, if you see anyone at all, you call me before you do anything. You understand? I understand. But as I hung up and settled into wait, pulling Scout close for warmth, I couldn't stop staring at the cave entrance. Someone had kept those girls here. For years. Close enough to town that they could resupply. Remote enough that no one had found them. Until now. The Pine Ridge Community Center smelled like burnt coffee and wet wool. 3 days after I'd found the cave. Storm had come and gone, dumping 4 feet of snow that had buried everything, including any chance of finding more evidence until the thaw. The town meeting had been Mayor Hendrick's idea. Community needs answers, he'd said. What he meant was, community needs someone to blame. Every seat was full. People I'd known for 30 years, crammed shoulder to shoulder, faces tight with 4 years of grief and anger finally finding a target. Me. Frank Morrison stood up in the back, hardware store owner, face like saddle leather, disposition to match. I got a question for Miss Whitlow. Mayor Hendricks gestured. Floor's yours, Frank. How come you find this cave after 4 years when the FBI couldn't? His voice carried across the room. 32 years you've been hiking every day. Every single day. And you never saw anything, never noticed anything wrong, then suddenly... He snapped his fingers, the sound sharp as a gunshot. You just happened to find exactly where those girls were kept? The room went dead quiet. Seems mighty convenient, you ask me, Frank continued. Seems like maybe someone knew where to look all along. My face burned. I stood slow, feeling every one of my 63 years in my knees. You got something to say, Frank? Say it to my face. I'm just asking questions folks are thinking. He crossed his arms. You've been up in those mountains every day for 3 decades. You're telling me you never saw smoke? Never heard anything? Never noticed a damn thing? Tom Brennan stood up from the side wall. You best watch your mouth, Frank. Free country, Sheriff. I can ask questions. You're not asking questions. Tom's voice dropped to that dangerous quiet I'd heard him use on drunks and wife-beaters. You're accusing, and you're accusing the wrong person. May Whitlow found those girls because she never stopped looking, because she knows every inch of those mountains, because she gave a damn when the rest of us... He looked around the room when the rest of us moved on with our lives. The silence stretched, like wire, pulled too tight. Sarah Mills spoke up from the third row, voice small but clear. Frank Morrison, you got some nerve. You're the same man who said those girls probably ran away, said they were trouble looking for attention. And now you want to blame the woman who proved you wrong? A murmur ran through the crowd, some agreeing, some not. Frank's face reddened. I'm just saying it don't add up. And if the law won't ask hard questions, someone's got to. The law is asking questions, period, Tom said, to the right people. May Whitlow isn't a suspect. She's a witness, and she's been more help to this investigation than... The door at the back opened. Agent Voss walked in, her boots tracking slush across the linoleum. The room turned to watch her approach the front. She didn't look at me. That's when I knew. Agent Voss stepped up beside Mayor Hendricks. Her face was professional, blank, the expression she wore when delivering bad news. I need to make a brief statement, she said. Then I'll take questions. The crowd settled, expectant. First, I want to thank Miss Whitlow for her assistance in discovering the cave site. Her knowledge of this terrain has been invaluable. She pulled out a small notepad. However, as of this morning, I've received direction from my supervisor in Seattle. Due to concerns about emotional investment and potential confirmation bias, Miss Whitlow is being removed from active participation in this investigation. The words hit like a fist to the gut. Frank Morrison's smile was ugly. Told you. Tom stood again. Agent Voss, I understand the sheriff's office has been coordinating with Miss Whitlow, Voss continued, not meeting my eyes. That will cease immediately. All evidence will be processed by our forensic team without civilian consultation. All search operations will be conducted by trained federal personnel. She finally looked at me, something like apology in her eyes, but not enough to matter. Miss Whitlow, thank you for your service, but as of now, you're off the case. The room erupted, some people cheering, some arguing. Rebecca Miller in the front row just put her face in her hands and sobbed. I stood there, frozen. 32 years in these mountains. 4 years thinking about those missing girls every time I hiked. 3 days ago, I'd found them, found where they'd been, and now. This is politics, Tom said, his voice cutting through the noise. This is bureaucratic covering ass, and everyone in this room knows it. Sheriff Brennan, Voss said, her voice sharp, I'd advise you to remember that the FBI has jurisdiction here. And I'd advise you to remember that local knowledge matters, that experience matters, that May Whitlow has forgotten more about these mountains than your tactical team will ever know. Nevertheless, Voss closed her notepad. Those are my orders. Miss Whitlow, I'm going to need you to turn over any evidence you've collected, any notes, any photographs, anything related to this case. I found my voice. The girls are still out there. We're aware. That storm buried half the county. Spring thaw won't come for 6 weeks. You've got one shot at finding them before... Miss Whitlow? Voss's tone gentled slightly. I understand your frustration, but this decision is final. I'm sorry. She wasn't sorry. She was following orders. There's a difference. Frank Morrison stood again. I think Miss Whitlow should tell us exactly what she was doing up on that trail 3 years ago, when she claims she saw smoke and didn't report it. My blood went cold. I did report it. To Sheriff Brennan. He'll confirm. Will he? Frank's smile widened. Or will he cover for his friend? Tom moved toward Frank, his fists clenched. 2 deputies stepped between them. The meeting dissolved into chaos. Shouting, accusations, Rebecca Miller crying, Thomas Chen staring at the floor like a man who'd given up hoping. I walked out. Scout was waiting by my truck, patient as always. I climbed in, started the engine, turned the heat up high. My hands were shaking. 4 years those girls had been missing. And I'd finally found where they'd been kept. Found evidence. Found hope. And the FBI had just shut me out. Worse, the town thought I was involved. The snow had started falling again, light, gentle, the kind that'd pile up 6 inches by morning. Somewhere out there, Emma and Lily were still missing, and I couldn't do a damn thing about it. Tom showed up at my cabin after midnight. I heard his truck before I saw it, engine noise cutting through the silence. Scout lifted his head but didn't bark. He knew Tom's truck. I was still awake. Hadn't been able to sleep. Kept seeing Frank Morrison's face, hearing Voss say emotionally compromised. Like it was a disease. Tom knocked soft. I opened the door to find him standing there in the cold, his breath fogging, his face haggard. Can I come in? I stepped aside. He stomped snow off his boots and followed me to the kitchen. I poured coffee without asking if he wanted any. Men don't show up at your door past midnight to chat. We sat at my small table. Scout settled between us, his warmth a comfort. Tom wrapped both hands around his mug, stared into it like he could read the future in coffee grounds. I need to tell you something, he said finally. Something I should have told you 3 years ago. I waited. You remember when you reported seeing smoke, coming from that area near where the cave turned out to be? My stomach tightened. I remember. I didn't investigate it. His voice was flat, empty. You told me about smoke rising from that area, and I said it was probably campers or a controlled burn, and I didn't check, not once, not even a drive-by. The kitchen was quiet, except for the tick of the old clock Robert had hung 20 years ago. We could have found them 3 years ago, Tom continued. Emma and Lily could have been home for 3 years. And his voice broke. I just dismissed it, busy with other things. Figured you'd tell me if it was important enough. Tom, don't. He held up a hand. Don't tell me it wasn't my fault. Don't tell me I couldn't have known, because that's the kind of thing people say to make themselves feel better, and I don't deserve to feel better. He finally looked at me. His eyes were red-rimmed. Tom Brennan wasn't a man who cried easy, but he was close now. You know what my sergeant used to say in Vietnam? His voice roughened. He said, "You ain't no such thing as a perfect war. You do what you can with what you know, and you live with the rest." I've been trying to live by that for 40 years, May. Do the job, do it right, make the calls as best you can. He set down his mug. His hands were shaking. But this is the kind of rest that kills you. Those girls lost 3 more years because I was lazy, because I didn't do my job, because I took your word that it was probably nothing, and I didn't verify. That's on me. That's my burden, and I'll carry it until the day I die. The wind picked up outside, rattling the windows. Scout shifted, pressing closer to Tom's leg. I learned patience in Vietnam, Tom said quietly. The kind you need when you're waiting for an enemy you can't see, hiding in jungle so thick you can't see your own hand. Same kind of patience you need in these mountains, where winter hides things and evil doesn't announce itself with bugles. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand, the way men do when they don't want to admit they're crying. But patience and laziness, they can look the same from the outside. And I was lazy, May. I'm supposed to be the law around here, supposed to protect people. And I failed. I reached across the table, put my hand over his. You're human, Tom. So were those girls. So are those girls, if they're still alive. And they suffered 3 extra years because I didn't do a simple follow-up. He pulled his hand away, not unkind, just unable to accept comfort. After this is over, after the trial, I think I'm done. 30 years is enough. Time to let somebody younger take the badge. You're the best lawman this county's ever had. I'm the lawman who let 2 girls stay captive an extra 3 years. He stood. But before I hang it up, I'm going to find every person involved in this, and I'm going to make sure they never see daylight again. That's a promise. Not to you, to Robert, to those girls, to myself. He headed for the door, then stopped, turned back. The FBI's wrong about you, he said. You're not emotionally compromised. You're determined. There's a difference. And in about 3 hours, when the forensic team finishes their independent verification, they're going to confirm everything you found, every piece of evidence, every conclusion. How do you know? Because you're right. You're always right about these mountains. It's the rest of us who keep getting it wrong. After he left, I sat alone in the dark, Scout's head on my knee, the cabin settling around us with small creaks and sighs. Tom Brennan was carrying guilt that'd break most men, and he was doing it alone, the way men of his generation always did. Vietnam had taught him to bury feelings deep, to keep moving, to do the job no matter what it cost. But some costs compound, some debts you can't ever repay. Outside, the snow kept falling, patient, relentless. Somewhere out there, 2 girls were waiting, hoping, counting days on whatever surface they could mark. And now both me and Tom knew we'd had a chance 3 years ago, and we'd missed it. Agent Voss called at 6 a.m. I'd been up for an hour, nursing coffee and watching dawn turn the mountains pink. May, I need you to come to the field office in Seattle, today if possible. Her voice was different, less formal, almost apologetic. Why? Because my supervisor was wrong, and I need to tell you that in person. 2 hours later, I sat in a conference room that smelled like burnt coffee and whiteboard markers. Tom was there, Agent Voss, 3 other agents I didn't know. Voss pulled up images on a screen, evidence photos, lab reports, analysis documents. The forensic team completed their independent verification, she said. Every piece of evidence you identified has been confirmed. The bracelet is Emma Miller's, DNA match to samples from her bedroom. The tally marks number exactly 1,247, which corresponds to 3 years, 5 months, and 2 days. The food wrappers have been dated. Most recent is from 4 months ago. She pulled up another image. We also found something you missed, hidden in a crevice, protected from moisture. It was a piece of cardboard, hand-drawn map on it, rough trails, water sources marked with wavy lines, several locations marked with X's. My breath caught. You recognize the notation style? Voss asked. I do. That's the system I taught in the wilderness education program 7 years ago. I leaned closer. That ridgeline, that's Cathedral Peak. This stream is Willow Creek, and this location marked Safe Place. I pulled out my phone, overlaid the drawing with my GPS map. That's about 3 miles northeast of the cave, right in the area where you saw smoke 3 years ago, Tom finished quietly. Voss nodded. We think they were moved, started in the cave, then relocated to another site. If this map is accurate, that second location is still active, or was recently. One of the other agents spoke up. That area used to have logging operations 40, 50 years ago. We've been pulling old records. There might be equipment sheds, worker shelters that aren't on modern maps. There are, I said. I've never hiked that specific section. Approach is too rough for the views you get. But Robert and I found an old logging cabin once, maybe 25 years back. Thought it was abandoned, probably condemned. Can you find it again? I looked at Tom. He nodded. Yes, I said. I can find it. Voss stood. Then you're back on the case. My supervisor got overruled by someone higher up the chain. Apparently, the field director doesn't appreciate being told that local expertise doesn't matter. She almost smiled. You're officially a consultant, paid position, full access in May. She met my eyes. I'm sorry. I should have fought harder yesterday. You were following orders. Doesn't make it right. Within the hour, 2 search teams were assembled. Tom and I led one. Agent Voss led the other. We had topographical maps, GPS units, and the hand-drawn map in a protective sleeve. The hike northeast from the cave was exactly as rough as I'd predicted. Steep terrain, deadfall everywhere, snow making everything treacherous. But Scout moved with purpose, his nose down, tracking something I couldn't smell. We'd been walking for 90 minutes when Tom called a halt. May, look at this. A tree with fresh markings carved into the bark, not random scratches. Deliberate symbols, the same symbols from the map. Trail markers. Someone had made a path system. She's been here recently, I said, running my finger near the cuts. These marks are fresh, maybe a week old. She? I pulled out the map again, studied the handwriting, the precision. Whoever drew this knows these mountains almost as well as I do, and teaches the same notation system I teach. That's not Michael Sutton. His records show he barely finished high school. This is someone educated, someone patient, someone who thinks like a teacher. Voss radioed the information to her team. Then she looked at me. Who taught wilderness education with you 7 years ago? My mind raced back. Steve Morrison from the Park Service. Anna Chen from... I stopped. And Jennifer Hartley. She taught 6th grade science. We co-led the program together. You remember her? Late 20s, dark hair, quiet, passionate about outdoor education. We hiked together a few times, shared routes and observations. Voss was already pulling up records on her tablet. Jennifer Hartley resigned from Pine Ridge Elementary 5 years ago, right before the girls disappeared, cited family reasons, no forwarding address. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. She taught Emma and Lily, I said. They were both in her science class. She would have known them, known their routines, known they liked to hike. And she would have known exactly where to hide them. Tom's face had gone hard. We need to find that cabin, now. We pushed forward, following the marked trail. Scout stayed close, alert but not aggressive. Whatever he was tracking, it wasn't immediate danger, just history, just evidence, just the truth we'd been chasing for 4 years. The cabin appeared through the trees an hour later, small, weathered, but solid. Smoke rising from a chimney that shouldn't have been there. Someone was inside, or had been very recently. The FBI tactical team moved forward with weapons drawn. Tom and I hung back with Scout, watching from cover. The cabin sat in a small clearing, maybe 15 by 20 feet. Wood stove, rough table, no windows on the back wall. Federal agents, Voss called out. Anyone inside, make yourself known. Silence. Just wind through the pines and the creak of old timber. The team breached the door. 30 seconds of tense silence. Then Voss emerged, holstering her weapon. Clear, no one inside, but you need to see this. I followed her in, Scout at my heel. The smell hit first. Wood smoke, damp fabric, human sweat. Recent habitation, very recent. The interior was crude but functional. Sleeping pallets on the floor with blankets that looked newer than the ones in the cave. Shelves stocked with canned goods, beans, soup, vegetables. A corner set up for cooking. Another corner with books, old paperbacks, their spines cracked from reading. And everywhere signs of the girls, drawings pinned to the walls, childlike sketches of mountains and birds and what might have been memories of home. One showed 2 stick figures holding hands under a sun. Another showed a dog, maybe Scout, maybe just wishful thinking. Tally marks carved into the wooden walls, continuing the count from the cave. On the table sat a wooden stick about 8 inches long, notches carved into it, careful and deliberate. I moved closer, counting. My hands trembled. 1,247 notches, the exact same number as the tally marks in the cave. They were moved, I said quietly. Started in the cave, kept count there, then were brought here and kept counting on this stick. Tom picked up a coffee pot from the stove, still warm. They were here this morning, hours ago, maybe less. Agent Voss was already on her radio. I need the forensic team up here, and I need aerial surveillance. Someone's maintaining this site. They can't be far. I walked the perimeter slowly, Scout beside me, looking for anything, any clue about where they'd gone next. The firewood outside was stacked neat, split fresh, you could smell the pine sap. A water collection system fed from a nearby creek, solar panels partially hidden under camouflage netting. This wasn't temporary, this was a homestead. Someone had been living here, caring for this place. Caring for the girls, in their own twisted way. On the eastern edge of the clearing, something caught my eye. A broken branch, at chest height, the break fresh. I looked closer, a footprint in the soft earth, small, possibly female. Agent Voss? She came quickly, studied the print. Could be one of the girls, or whoever's keeping them. Either way, it's recent, within the last day or two. She looked at the tree line. They went east, toward lower elevation, toward town, or toward another hiding spot. Tom appeared beside us. Storm's coming back. Weather Service just updated the forecast. Another front moving in tonight. Won't be as bad as the last one, but bad enough. I looked at the sky, clear now, deceptively calm, but I'd seen enough mountain weather to know clear mornings could turn deadly by afternoon. We need to move fast, I said. We hiked back to the vehicles to coordinate next steps. That's when I saw them. News vans, at least 4, parked along the access road, reporters with cameras, a growing crowd of townspeople. Someone had leaked the cabin discovery. Rebecca Miller broke through the sheriff's tape, running toward us. Her ex-husband David was right behind her, trying to grab her arm. She pulled free, stumbling in the snow, desperation written across her face. "Is it true?" she shouted. "Did you find where they kept Emma? Is my baby there?" Thomas Chen stood back from the chaos, his face carved from stone, watching, waiting, a man who'd learned not to hope too hard. Tom moved to intercept Rebecca, but she dodged around him, coming straight for me. "Please." She grabbed my hands. Her grip was desperate, searching. "I need you to tell me the truth, not as a rescuer, not as an investigator, as a woman, as a mother." Her voice cracked. "Do you think my baby's still alive?" The cameras swung toward us. I could hear the reporters shouting questions, calling my name. I looked at Rebecca Miller, at this woman who'd spent 4 years in a hell I couldn't imagine. Waiting, hoping, dying a little bit every day her daughter didn't come home. And I couldn't lie to her. "I don't know," I said quietly. Her face crumpled. "But they were there. You found where they were kept." "They were there. Recently. But they're gone now. Someone moved them. We don't know where. We don't know." I had to force the words out. "We don't know if they were still alive." Rebecca's knees buckled. David caught her before she hit the ground. Tom and another deputy helped guide her to a patrol car, away from the cameras. Thomas Chen approached then, slower, more controlled, but the pain in his eyes was just as raw. "My wife didn't survive this," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The not knowing, it killed her. 2 years after Lily disappeared, Lynn had a heart attack. Doctors said it was stress-induced. She died, never knowing what happened to our daughter." He looked past me, toward the cabin, hidden in the trees. "I need to find Lily. I need to tell her that her mother loved her until the very end. That Lynn never stopped believing, never stopped hoping." His voice broke. "I need my daughter to know she wasn't forgotten." A reporter pushed closer, microphone extended. "Mr. Chin, do you blame the investigation for—" Tom stepped between them. "Back off. Now." But the damage was done. The media had their story. Small-town tragedy, missing girls, desperate families, the woman who'd found the cave but couldn't find the girls. By evening, my home address had been leaked online, my phone number, everything. The privacy I'd guarded for 32 years, gone in an afternoon. Agent Voss found me sitting in my truck, door closed, trying to breathe. "I'm sorry," she said through the window. "We're trying to control the situation." "Can't control a wildfire once it starts." "No." She looked back at the media circus. "We need to move operations, set up a proper command post away from here, and may—" She hesitated. "My supervisor's getting calls. Political pressure. There are people saying we should pull back, wait for spring thaw, that we're wasting resources on a cold case." "It's not cold. They were in that cabin hours ago." "I know, and I'm fighting to keep this active. But you need to know, if we don't make progress in the next 48 hours, I might lose that fight." 48 hours. 2 days to find girls who'd been hidden for 4 years. I looked at Scout in the passenger seat. He looked back at me with those brown eyes that had led me to the cave, that had tracked the trail to the cabin. "We'll find them," I said. "We're close. I can feel it." But feeling wasn't evidence. And evidence was what the FBI needed. That night, I couldn't go home. Too many reporters camped at the end of my driveway. Too many phone calls from numbers I didn't recognize. I stayed at Tom's place. His spare room smelled like mothballs and gun oil. Scout curled up on the floor beside the bed. I pulled out my trail journal, stared at the blank page. What do you write when you're this close to answers but still drowning in questions? When you've given desperate families hope and then had to take it away? When the whole world is watching and waiting for you to fail? I wrote one line. They're still out there, still waiting, still hoping someone will find them. Then I closed the journal and tried to sleep. Outside, the wind picked up, the new storm rolling in right on schedule. And somewhere in these mountains, Emma Miller and Lily Chen were spending another night in captivity, day 1 of their stolen lives. The knock on Tom's door came at dawn. I was already up, coffee in hand, watching gray light filter through curtains. Tom answered. I heard a young male voice, uncertain. Is Miss Whitlow here? Marcus Miller stood on the porch, 15 years old now, tall, gangly in the way teenage boys are when they've grown too fast. His hands were jammed in his jacket pockets, shoulders hunched against cold that wasn't just weather. Come in, I said, before you freeze. He stepped inside, stomping snow off his boots. Scout padded over to investigate. Marcus reached down automatically, scratching behind the dog's ears. Mom doesn't know I'm here, he said. She's at the hospital. They had to sedate her after yesterday. I poured him coffee, didn't ask if he wanted any. Sometimes boys need something to hold on to. We sat at Tom's kitchen table. Marcus wrapped both hands around the mug, staring into it like he could find answers in the steam. I wanted to thank you, he said finally, for finding where Emma was, for not giving up. We haven't found her yet. But you proved she was alive, recently. That's more than anyone's done in 4 years. He looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed. I gave up on her, about 2 years ago. I stopped believing she was alive. The kitchen was quiet, except for the tick of an old clock on the wall. I was 10 when she disappeared, Marcus continued. Mom fell apart, Dad left, and everybody kept telling me to be strong, be the man of the house, be brave. But nobody asked if I was sad. Nobody asked if I was scared. His voice cracked. They just wanted me to be okay so they didn't have to deal with one more broken thing. I chose my words careful. You were a child dealing with trauma. You did the best you could. I was supposed to be her little brother. He set down the mug, his hands shaking. And I gave up on her. What kind of brother does that make me? Scout moved closer, resting his head on Marcus's knee. The boy's hand moved automatically to pet him. Son. I leaned forward. You survived. That's not giving up. That's being human. Emma doesn't need your guilt. She needs you to be whole enough to help her be whole when we find her. You understand me? How do I do that? One day at a time, same way you do anything that matters. I paused. Your sister's alive because people didn't quit. That includes you. You stayed alive too. That counts. Marcus nodded slowly, wiped his eyes with the back of his hand, the way young men do when they don't want to admit they're crying. Can I help? He asked. With the search, I know I'm just a kid, but I need to do something. I can't just sit around waiting anymore. Tom had been standing in the doorway listening. He spoke up now. You ever done any hiking, Marcus? Some. Emma used to take me on easy trails before. He stopped. Before. Then you can help, I said. I'm going to teach you what I taught your sister. How to read the mountains, how to track, how to survive if things go wrong. And when we find Emma, you're going to be the brother who never stopped fighting for her, even when fighting meant learning, even when fighting meant showing up. Something shifted in Marcus's face. Purpose, maybe? Or just the relief of having something concrete to do instead of drowning in grief. We spent the morning at Tom's table, studying maps. Marcus asked good questions, smart questions, reminded me of Emma 5 years ago in the wilderness education program. This third location marked on the map, I said, pointing. That's what we need to find. Cave to cabin to somewhere. There's a pattern. Each place more remote than the last, Tom observed, moving deeper into the backcountry. I pulled out my old trail journals, flipping through pages, years of hikes, notes about unusual structures, observations about terrain. Then I found it, an entry from 15 years ago. Hiked to Old Fire Lookout Tower today. Structure condemned, do not climb signs everywhere. But the view from below is spectacular, perfect spot for solitude. Or hiding, I'd even sketched it. A rough drawing of the tower on stilts, access stairs, the surrounding terrain. There, I said, tapping the page. That's the third location, has to be. Marcus leaned over to look. Where is it? About 15 miles north of the cabin. Brutal approach, steep switchbacks, loose rock, narrow ridges. I only went once because it wasn't worth the danger for the view. But if someone wanted a remote place, Mom said slowly, where you could see anyone approaching from miles away, that tower would be perfect. Agent Voss arrived an hour later. We showed her the journal entry, explained the theory. We'll need to coordinate carefully, she said. If they're there, if they see us coming, they'll run or fight, Tom finished. Neither ends well for the girls. Marcus spoke up then, his voice young but determined. Take me with you. Absolutely not, Voss said immediately. Emma needs to see someone she knows, someone from before. If you storm in with just FBI agents and tactical gear, she'll be terrified. But if she sees me, his voice caught. If she sees her little brother, she'll know it's real. She'll know she's actually being rescued. I looked at Tom. He looked at Voss. She shook her head. He's a civilian, a minor. There's no protocol for... Protocol hasn't found them yet, Marcus said. Please, I need to be there. I need Emma to know I never really gave up, that I'm still her brother. Voss studied him for a long moment. Then she pulled out a radio harness. You stay with May at all times. You follow every order immediately. And if I say run, you run. Understood? Marcus nodded, solemn as a vow. I handed him Scout's spare tracking harness. You're coming with us. But first, let me teach you a few things, because if we're doing this, we're doing it right. Outside, the sky was clearing. The storm had passed, leaving everything white and clean. We had maybe 3 days before the next system moved in. 3 days to find that tower, to find the girls. To end this, Marcus stood on Tom's porch looking toward the mountains, young, determined, scared but refusing to show it. Emma's going to be okay, he said. Not a question, a decision. Yes, I told him, she is. Because sometimes faith isn't about knowing, it's about choosing to believe anyway. The forensic linguist called Agent Voss with results 2 days later. We were in the command post, a rented office space in town that the FBI had set up away from the media circus. Voss put the call on speaker. What did you find? There are 4 different handwriting styles in the collected evidence, the linguist said. Her voice was clipped, professional. Emma Miller's, Lily Chen's, Michael Sutton's, and a 4th we couldn't initially identify. Jennifer Hartley, Voss said. We sent you samples from her employment records. That's the match. The 4th handwriting belongs to Jennifer Hartley. And there's more. The map you found in the cabin shows a notation system that's extremely specific. We ran it through our database of teaching curricula. I already knew what she was going to say. It matches a wilderness education program run in Pine Ridge 7 years ago. The instructor was May Whitlow, I finished. And Jennifer Hartley was my co-teacher. The room went silent. Tom looked at me. You trained her. I trained 15 people in that program. Jennifer was one of them. My hands were shaking. I pressed them flat against the table. She was passionate about outdoor education, knowledgeable. I thought she genuinely cared about helping children appreciate nature. She did care, Voss said quietly. That's what makes this worse. She believed she was saving them. Saving them by locking them in caves? Delusional altruism. We've seen it before. Someone with genuine idealism gets twisted by a stronger personality. In this case, probably Michael Sutton. They start believing society is corrupt, that removing vulnerable people from it is rescue rather than kidnapping. I felt sick. I'd taught Jennifer everything she'd needed to hide those girls: trail systems, shelter construction, water sourcing, how to move through terrain without being detected. I'd given her the tools to orchestrate 4 years of captivity. May, Tom said, this isn't your fault. Isn't it? I trained her. You trained her to save lives, Voss interrupted. She chose to use that training to take lives. You can't own her choices. But the guilt settled into my chest anyway. Heavy, permanent. Agent Voss pulled up Jennifer's photo from the school directory. 7 years old, her face younger, hopeful, dark hair pulled back, warm eyes. I'd hiked with this woman, shared trail knowledge, trusted her with children. We need to find her, I said, before she moves them again. The break came from Idaho. Linda Sutton, Michael's sister, had made a mistake. She'd used a credit card at a gas station outside Boise. Local police picked her up within the hour. By evening, she was in FBI custody, being transported back to Washington. Voss and I sat in on the interrogation via video link, Linda Sutton looked nothing like her brother. Where Michael was thin and wild-eyed, Linda was soft-spoken, almost motherly, the kind of woman you'd see at church potlucks, baking cookies for fundraisers, the kind of woman who'd helped kidnap 2 teenage girls. "I want a deal," Linda said, leaning back in her chair. She was handcuffed, but somehow she made it look comfortable. "I'll tell you everything, where the girls are, where Jennifer is, everything." "In exchange for what?" Voss asked through the speaker. "Immunity for Jennifer." Voss's expression didn't change. "That's not on the table." "Then I guess those girls stay lost," Linda smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. "Jennifer's at the fire tower with them right now, has been for the past week, but here's the thing. She's got a gun, and she's got nothing left to lose. So if you storm in there like cowboys, she'll kill them both before you breach the door. I guarantee it." My stomach dropped. Tom leaned forward. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" "Jennifer's a true believer, Sheriff. She genuinely thinks she's protecting those girls from a corrupt world. And she's smart enough to know that once you find her, it's over. Her mission fails. Everything she's worked for collapses." Linda's smile widened. "So she'll make a final gesture. Mercy killing, save them from going back to the poison." "She wouldn't," I said. "Jennifer loved teaching. She wouldn't hurt children." "She's not the woman you knew 7 years ago, May. My brother changed her, showed her the truth about how broken everything is. She's been preparing for this moment for months." Linda leaned closer to the camera. "You want those girls alive? You give Jennifer immunity. Let her walk. Otherwise, you'll find 3 bodies in that tower instead of 3 people." Voss cut the connection, turned to the agents in the room. "She's lying. Has to be. We can't give immunity to someone who—" "What if she's not?" I said quietly. Everyone looked at me. "What if Jennifer really is willing to kill them rather than let them go back? We've seen it before. Jonestown, Heaven's Gate, people who believe they're saving others by killing them." Tom stood, pacing. "So what do we do? Negotiate with a kidnapper? Set a precedent that says if you threaten to kill hostages, you get immunity?" "We don't negotiate," Voss said. "We plan, we coordinate, and we get those girls out before Jennifer knows we're coming." "Linda just told you, Jennifer will see you approaching from miles away. That tower has perfect sight lines." "Then we don't approach during the day," Tom said. "We go at night, use the weather, create a distraction." I thought about the tower, about the approach, about Jennifer, the woman I'd known, twisted into someone capable of murder. "Send me," I said. Everyone stopped. "Send me in alone, to talk to her. Jennifer knows me, trusts me, or she used to. If I can get close enough to reason with her—" "Absolutely not," Voss said. "That's not protocol, that's suicide." "It's the only way to get close without her panicking." I looked at Tom. "You know I'm right." He didn't want to agree. I could see it in his face. But he nodded slowly. "I'll go with you," Marcus said. He'd been quiet in the corner, listening. "If Emma sees me, she'll know it's real. She'll trust it's actually rescue and not another trick." "No," Voss said immediately. "You're a minor. I'm not sending a child into—" "I'm 15. Emma was 17 when they took her. She's been a hostage for 4 years. She's been brave. I can be brave for 1 day." The room fell silent. Voss looked at Tom. Tom looked at me. I looked at Marcus, this boy who'd grown up too fast, who'd lost his sister for 4 years, who was finally getting a chance to fight for her instead of just waiting. "If we do this," Voss said slowly, "we do it right. Full tactical support, surveillance, extraction plan, and at the first sign of danger, you both pull out. Understood?" I nodded. Marcus nodded. "Then let's plan a rescue." The night before the operation, I couldn't sleep. Tom had offered his spare room again, but I needed space, needed quiet, needed to think. I drove to the only place that made sense. St. Michael's Church sat on the edge of town, small and wooden, built 80 years ago when Pine Ridge was just a logging camp. Father Patrick had been the priest here for 20 years. He'd buried Robert. He'd listened to me rage at God for taking my husband too soon. He'd understand why I was here now. The church was unlocked. Always was. Father Patrick believed sacred spaces should be accessible, not secured. I slipped inside, the smell of old wood and candle wax wrapped around me like a blanket. My footsteps echoed on the plank floor. I sat in a pew halfway back. Scout settled beside me, his warmth grounding me. "You're here late," Father Patrick said from the shadows. I hadn't heard him approach. He had that gift, moving quiet, giving people space until they were ready to talk. He sat beside me, 70 years old, white hair, kind eyes that had seen enough of humanity to know how broken we all were, but kept showing up anyway. Can't sleep before a mission, huh? Something like that. We sat in silence. Father Patrick was good at silence, knew when to wait. Finally, I spoke. I taught her, Jennifer Hartley. 7 years ago, I taught her everything she'd need to hide those girls. Trail systems, shelter building, how to move through terrain without being detected. You taught wilderness survival. I taught her how to make people disappear. My voice cracked. And she used it to kidnap Emma and Lily, to keep them locked away for 4 years. That's on me. Is it? I looked at him. How is it not? You taught her to save lives. She chose to use that knowledge to imprison them. Those are different things, May. You know that. Do I? I stood, pacing. I should have seen something, some sign that she was capable of this, but I didn't. I thought she was dedicated, passionate. I trusted her. Evil doesn't always announce itself with horns and a pitchfork, Father Patrick said gently. Sometimes it wears the face of idealism, sometimes it quotes scripture and talks about saving people. That's what makes it dangerous. It looks like virtue from certain angles. I stopped at the altar rail, gripped the worn wood. Tomorrow I'm walking into that tower. I'm going to try to talk Jennifer down. And if I fail, if she kills those girls because I can't find the right words, then you'll have tried, and you'll carry that weight, because that's what good people do. They carry the weight of their actions and the consequences of their failures, but May... He stood, walked over to stand beside me. You can't carry the weight of other people's evil. That's not yours to bear. Then whose is it? God's, Jennifer's, the universe's. Take your pick. He smiled sadly. You're not responsible for every broken thing in the world. You're only responsible for how you respond to the broken things you encounter. Outside, wind rattled the windows. The February thaw had started. Snow melting, mud everywhere, the smell of earth waking up after winter. I'm scared, I admitted. Tomorrow I'm going to look at a woman I trusted, and I'm going to have to convince her that everything she believes is wrong, that she's not a savior, that she's a kidnapper, a monster. Are you scared of her, or scared of what she represents? I thought about that. Both. She's me, in a way. Someone who loved these mountains, who wanted to teach, who tried to help, and somewhere along the line, she got twisted into something terrible. What if that could happen to anyone? What if it could happen to me? It could, Father Patrick said simply. Any of us can be twisted if we're not careful, if we start believing our good intentions justify any action, if we stop listening to other voices, other perspectives, if we isolate ourselves in echo chambers of our own righteousness. He put a hand on my shoulder. But you haven't been twisted. You know why? Because you're here right now, questioning yourself, doubting, seeking counsel. People who turn into monsters don't do that. They stop questioning. They become certain. Jennifer's certain she's right. Yes, and that's the tragedy. She genuinely believes she's saving those girls by keeping them away from modern society. She's so convinced of her own righteousness that she can't see the suffering she's causing. He paused. Your job tomorrow isn't to prove she's wrong. It's to remind her of what she used to believe, before certainty replaced compassion. I turned to face him. What if I can't? What if she's too far gone? Then the tactical team will do what they need to do, and those girls will either come home or they won't, and you'll have done everything in your power to save them. That's all any of us can do, May. Our best, our honest best, and then we trust that grace fills the gaps. He reached into his pocket, pulled out something small, a rosary, beads worn smooth from decades of prayer. This was my father's, he said. He carried it through Korea, brought him home alive when a lot of good men didn't make it home. I want you to have it tomorrow. Father, I can't. You can, and you will. Because sometimes we need something to hold on to, something that reminds us we're not alone, even when we feel most isolated. I took the rosary. The beads were warm from his pocket. I could smell the old leather of the pouch he kept it in. Thank you, I whispered. Thank me by bringing those girls home. And bringing yourself home, too. The town needs you, May, more than you know. The briefing happened at dawn in the command post. Agent Voss laid out maps of the fire tower approach on the table. Tom and 3 other FBI agents crowded around. Marcus sat to the side, quiet but present. The tower is here, Voss said, tapping the map. 15 miles north-northwest of the cabin. The approach is brutal. Narrow ridges, steep switchbacks, exposed sections where anyone watching from above would see us coming. So we don't approach from below, Tom said. We come in from the north. Use the tree cover. Get into position before May makes contact. May will be wired, Voss continued. Audio and GPS tracker will be listening to everything. If Jennifer shows any sign of violence, we move in immediately. And Marcus? I asked. Voss looked at the boy. He stays at the base camp until we've secured the scene. Then, and only then, we bring him up for the reunion. No, Marcus said. His voice was firm. Emma needs to see me, needs to know this is real and not another trick. I go with Miss Whitlow. It's too dangerous. My sister's been in danger for 4 years. I can handle one day. Marcus stood. I'm going. You can't stop me. I'll follow you if I have to. Tom and Voss exchanged a look. Tom sighed. He's got his sister's stubbornness. Fine, Voss said. But you stay behind May at all times. You don't approach Jennifer directly. And if I give the extraction order, you run. No arguments. Marcus nodded. Tom pulled me aside while Voss continued the briefing. He pressed something into my hand, Father Patrick's rosary. Wait, the father gave this to me last night, I said. I know. He called me this morning, said he wanted me to give it to you properly. As a lawman, as a friend, as someone who... Tom's voice roughened. As someone who's praying you come back alive. The beads were worn smooth from 60 years of prayer. I could feel the weight of all the faith they represented. Your father carried this through Korea? I asked. He did. Said it was the only reason he made it home when his whole platoon didn't. Tom closed my fingers around the rosary. You bring yourself home, May Whitlow. You hear me? Those girls need you. This town needs you. I need you. His eyes were wet. I'll come back, I promised. You better, because if you die up there, Robert's going to kill me in the afterlife for not protecting his wife. I laughed, despite everything. Hugged him. He hugged back, tight and brief, the way men of his generation did. Stay on comms, he said. Don't be a hero. Be smart. And remember, you're not alone up there. We've got Overwatch. We've got your back. The tactical team geared up. Voss fitted me with a wire. Tiny microphone clipped to my collar, GPS tracker in my jacket pocket. Marcus got the same setup. Scout stood ready, his harness on, his brown eyes focused. He can't go, Voss said. The approach is too technical. He'll slow you down. He's coming, I said flatly. Scout's part of this. He found the cave. He tracked to the cabin. He's earned the right to finish what he started. Voss looked like she wanted to argue. Then she saw my face. Fine, but if the dog gets hurt, he won't. We moved out at 7 a.m. The sky was gray, threatening more rain. The thaw had turned the trails to mud, making every step treacherous. 15 miles to the tower, 8 hours of hiking if we were lucky. More if the terrain fought us. Behind us, the tactical team fanned out, moving parallel but separate. Invisible support. Ahead of us, somewhere in those mountains, Jennifer Hartley waited with Emma and Lily. 4 years of captivity coming to an end. One way or another, I touched the rosary in my pocket, said a prayer I wasn't sure I believed anymore, and started walking. The weather turned on us at mile 10. Rain started gentle, then picked up intensity until it was coming down in sheets. The temperature dropped, not quite freezing, but close enough that hypothermia became a real concern. Marcus was shivering despite his waterproof jacket. Scout pressed close to him, sharing warmth. We should turn back, one of the tactical agents said through the comm. These conditions are getting dangerous. I looked up at the ridge ahead. 5 more miles. 5 miles between us and those girls. We keep moving, I said, Tom's voice through the radio. The forecast just updated. This is going to get worse before it gets better. If you get caught on those exposed sections, we'll be fine. You're 63 years old. Marcus is 15. These aren't conditions for what... We're not turning back, Tom. My voice was flat, final. We're too close. Silence on the comm. Then, Roger that, but if anyone shows signs of hypothermia, I'm pulling you out. No arguments. We pushed forward. The trail became a creek, water rushing over rocks, making every step treacherous. I'd hiked this route once, 15 years ago. Then it had been dry and difficult. Now it was a nightmare. Marcus slipped on a wet rock. I caught his arm before he went down hard. You okay? He nodded, teeth chattering. Just cold. We'll warm up when we move. Come on. Scout led the way, somehow finding the most stable path through the chaos. Dogs always knew. Always. The ridge section was the worst. Narrow trail, sheer drop on one side, rain making the rocks slick as ice, wind gusting hard enough to knock you off balance. I went first, one step at a time, testing each foothold, not looking down. Behind me, Marcus followed. Brave kid, doing what had to be done because his sister needed him. Halfway across, the wind hit hard. I stumbled, dropped to my knees, gripping the rock. "May!" Marcus shouted over the storm. "I'm fine. Keep moving." We crawled the last 50 feet, safer that way, slower, but safer. By the time we reached the tree cover on the far side, we were soaked and shaking, but we were alive. And there, through the rain and mist, I saw it. The fire tower, rising above the trees like a ghost, 40 feet high, stairs leading up the side, smoke coming from a chimney pipe that shouldn't have existed on a condemned structure. Someone was inside. Voss's voice crackled through the comm. "We have visual on the tower. Confirm one individual visible through the windows. Can't determine if it's Hartley or one of the girls." "How long until the tactical team is in position?" I asked. 15 minutes. May, you need to wait for movement at the tower door. Someone stepping out onto the landing. A woman, dark hair, thin, holding something in her hand, Jennifer Hartley, and she was looking straight at us. "She sees us," I said into the comm. "We're moving in now." "Wait for..." I cut the connection, pulled out the earpiece, looked at Marcus. "Stay behind me. No matter what happens, stay behind me." He nodded, his face pale but determined. We walked toward the tower, slow, hands visible, non-threatening. Jennifer watched us approach. The thing in her hand was a knife, large, hunting blade. "That's close enough, May," she called out when we were 30 yards away. I stopped. Marcus and Scout stopped behind me. "Jennifer," I kept my voice calm, steady. "We need to talk." "About what? About how you brought the FBI to drag me away? About how you're going to destroy everything I've worked for? About Emma and Lily. About ending this before someone gets hurt." She laughed, no humor in it. "They're not hurt. They're safe, protected. I've kept them away from all the poison, all the corruption, all the ways the world destroys innocence. You've kept them prisoner. I've kept them pure." The wind howled. Rain came down harder and was sorry. "Jennifer, you were a teacher. You loved helping children. This isn't who you are. This is exactly who I am, who I should have been all along, before society taught me to compromise, before I accepted the lies." She stepped closer to the railing. "You taught me, May. You showed me how to survive in these mountains, how to be self-sufficient, how to live outside the system. I'm just doing what you taught me. I taught you wilderness survival, not kidnapping. You taught me freedom, real freedom, away from screens and corruption, and I taught you skills to save lives." I took a step closer. "Not destroy them. Emma and Lily have families, parents who love them. A brother," I gestured to Marcus. "A brother who's been waiting 4 years to see his sister again." Jennifer's eyes flickered to Marcus. Something shifted in her expression. Uncertainty, maybe, or recognition of what she'd actually done. "They're better off without those families," she said, but her voice wavered. "Better off away from... No." Marcus stepped forward. I tried to stop him, but he moved past me. "You don't get to decide that. You don't get to decide what's better for my sister." "Marcus, stay back," I said, but he kept walking, toward the tower, toward Jennifer. "Emma's my sister. She raised me after Dad left. She taught me to tie my shoes and ride a bike and do homework when I didn't want to. She's not better off without me, and I'm not better off without her." His voice broke. "You took her from me when I was 10 years old. You took 4 years of my life. 4 years of watching my mom fall apart and my family die and everyone giving up hope. You don't get to tell me that was better for anyone." Jennifer's hand shook. The knife dropped lower. "I never wanted anyone to suffer," she whispered. "I thought... Michael said we were saving them. He said society was poison. He said..." "Michael Sutton is a liar," I said, moving closer. "And you know that, Jennifer. Deep down, you know that. Otherwise, you wouldn't be up here alone. Wouldn't be hiding. Wouldn't be holding that knife like you're preparing for the worst." The tower door opened. 2 figures emerged, thin, dirty, wrapped in blankets. Emma Miller, Lily Chen, alive. Emma saw Marcus. Her eyes went wide. "Marcus?" He ran. Didn't think. Didn't wait for permission. Just ran toward his sister like he was 10 years old again, and she was picking him up from school. The tactical team burst from the tree line, Weapons drawn, shouting commands. Jennifer lowered the knife, dropped it, fell to her knees. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "God forgive me. I'm so sorry." Emma and Marcus met at the base of the tower, collapsed into each other, both crying, both holding on like they'd never let go. Lily stood on the landing, watching, silent, the way she'd been for 4 years. I climbed the stairs, slow, careful, Scout beside me. When I reached her, she looked at me with eyes that had seen too much. "It's over?" she whispered. "It's over. We're really going home? You're really going home." She collapsed into my arms. This girl I'd never met before today. This survivor who'd counted 1,247 days in captivity and never stopped hoping someone would find her. I held her while she cried, while the tactical team secured Jennifer, while Tom radioed for medical evacuation, while Marcus and Emma held each other at the base of the tower, refusing to separate. Scout sat beside us, calm and patient. His job done, his mission complete. I pulled out the rosary Tom had given me, pressed it into Lily's hand. "Someone once told me," I said quietly, "that prayer brought them home when everything else failed. This rosary's been through Korea, through Vietnam, through 30 years of law enforcement, and now it's brought you home too." She gripped the beads tight, nodded. Below us, Agent Voss was reading Jennifer her rights, the woman who'd taught 6th grade science, who'd loved outdoor education, who'd been twisted into something terrible by certainty and isolation and the belief that good intentions justified any action. "How did you survive?" I asked Lily. She looked at Emma, still holding her brother. "We had each other. We kept calendars. We made up stories about what we'd do when we got out. And we never stopped believing that someone," her voice caught, "that someone would care enough to keep looking. We looked," I said, "for 4 years. We never stopped." The medical helicopter arrived 40 minutes later. Emma and Lily were loaded first, still wrapped in blankets, still shaking from cold and shock and the impossible reality of rescue. Rebecca Miller was at the hospital when we arrived. She saw Emma through the helicopter window and screamed, not in fear, but in joy, pure, unfiltered joy. Thomas Chin was quieter. He approached Lily's stretcher slow, like he was afraid she was a ghost that might disappear. "Lily?" he whispered. She looked up at her father. "Mom?" His face crumpled. "She's gone, sweetheart. 2 years ago. Her heart." He couldn't finish. Lily nodded like she'd known, like she'd felt it somehow. "Did she ever give up on me?" "Never. Not for a single day. Not for a single hour. She loved you until her last breath." "Tell me about her," Lily said. "Tell me everything." "I will, every day for the rest of our lives. I promise." They wheeled her inside, father and daughter, together again after 4 years of separation. Jennifer Hartley was taken into custody. She didn't resist, didn't speak, just stared straight ahead like a woman waking from a nightmare she'd thought was a dream. Marcus refused to leave Emma's side. The hospital staff finally gave up trying to separate them, letting him sit beside her bed, holding her hand, talking in low voices about all the things they'd missed. I stood in the hallway with Tom and Agent Voss, exhausted, soaked, covered in mud, but alive. And so were Emma and Lily. "You did it," Tom said quietly. "We did it." "No." He met my eyes. "You did it. You found the cave. You tracked the cabin. You identified the tower. You talked Jennifer down. This was all you, May." I shook my head. "It was Scout. It was you. It was every person who didn't give up. It was you," Voss said. "Accept that. You saved 2 lives today. That matters." I thought about the rosary I'd given Lily, about Father Patrick's words in the church, about doing your best and trusting Grace to fill the gaps. Maybe Grace looked like a dog who wouldn't stop tracking, like a sheriff who refused to quit despite his guilt, like a boy who insisted on being there for his sister, like an old woman too stubborn to let the mountains keep their secrets. "I'm going home," I said. "I need to sleep for about 3 days." "You've earned it," Tom said. But as I walked toward the exit, Scout at my side, I knew sleep would wait, because there were 2 families being reunited right now. And somehow, despite everything, despite 4 years of hell, there was joy in those hospital rooms. Broken joy, complicated joy, joy mixed with grief and trauma and the long road ahead, but joy nonetheless. And that was enough. That was everything. The trial began 6 months later, September. The air had that crisp edge that promised winter was coming again. Full circle from the January morning I'd found the cave. I sat in the courtroom gallery, Tom on one side, Agent Voss on the other. Scout wasn't allowed inside, so he waited with a deputy outside. Good dog, patient as always. The prosecution had decided to try all three defendants together: Michael Sutton, Linda Sutton, Jennifer Hartley. The charges were extensive: kidnapping, false imprisonment, child abuse, conspiracy. The evidence was overwhelming. Emma and Lily had both testified. I'd been there for Emma's testimony, watching this young woman, 21 now, technically an adult, though she'd been robbed of the years that should have taught her how to be one, speak clearly and firmly about what she'd endured. He said we were being saved, Emma had said, looking directly at Michael Sutton. He said our families had stopped looking, that the world outside was poisonous, that we were better off hidden away. Her voice had hardened. But you weren't saving us. You were stealing from us. Every single day for 4 years, you stole our freedom, our families, our lives, and I want you to know, she'd leaned forward, we never believed you, not completely. We always knew someone was still looking. We always knew we'd be found eventually. Lily's testimony had been quieter, but somehow more devastating. I used to have a mother, she'd said, her voice barely above a whisper. But she died 2 years into my captivity, died from the grief of not knowing if I was alive or dead. I never got to say goodbye, never got to tell her I loved her one last time. She'd looked at the defendants. You didn't just steal 4 years from me, you stole my mother. I'll never forgive that. The defense attorneys had tried, argued diminished capacity for Michael, psychological coercion for Linda, delusional disorder for Jennifer, but nothing could overcome the weight of 1,047 days, of tally marks on cave walls, of 2 teenage girls counting time in the dark, hoping someone would remember they existed. The jury had deliberated for 6 hours. Now they were back. The foreman stood. Bob Henderson, 72 years old, retired Marine, grandfather of 5. I'd known him casually for years, saw him at the hardware store, waved in passing. His hands were shaking as he held the verdict form. On the charge of kidnapping in the first degree, how do you find the defendant Michael Sutton? Guilty, Rebecca Miller gasped, gripping her ex-husband David's hand. Thomas Chin closed his eyes, tears streaming down his face. On the charge of kidnapping in the first degree, how do you find the defendant Linda Sutton? Guilty. Linda's shoulders shook with sobs. Her attorney put a hand on her arm, but she pulled away. On the charge of kidnapping in the first degree, how do you find the defendant Jennifer Hartley? Bob Henderson's voice caught, just slightly, but enough to hear. Guilty. Jennifer sat motionless, staring straight ahead, like a woman who'd expected this, who'd accepted it, who was already somewhere else in her mind. The foreman continued through all the charges: false imprisonment, child abuse, conspiracy. Each one came back the same: guilty, guilty, guilty. When he finished, the courtroom was silent except for the sound of Rebecca Miller crying. Not sad tears, not happy tears. Something in between. The tears of a parent who'd gotten her child back, but could never forget what she'd lost. The judge set sentencing for 2 weeks later. I already knew what it'd be. Life sentences. All 3 of them. No possibility of parole. They'd spend the rest of their lives in prison for stealing 4 years from 2 girls. Some people might say that wasn't proportional, that life was too harsh. Those people hadn't seen the tally marks, hadn't heard Emma's voice shake as she testified, hadn't watched Lily struggle to hug her father because she'd forgotten what safe touch felt like. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. I tried to slip past them, but Emma and Lily were giving a statement. I stopped to watch. Emma stood at the microphone, Lily beside her, both families behind them. Marcus there too, protective and proud. 4 years ago, Emma began, her voice steady, 3 people decided they had the right to take our lives. They decided they knew what was best for us, better than we knew, better than our families knew. They were wrong, she paused, looking directly at a camera. Today, justice was served. Not perfect justice. Nothing can give us back the time we lost. But justice nonetheless. And we want to thank everyone who never gave up on us. Her voice softened. Especially May Whitlow and her dog Scout. Because of them, we're standing here today. Because of them, we're alive, we're healing, and we have our futures back. Lily spoke then, her voice still soft but growing stronger. To anyone out there who's been through something like this, or who's still going through it, don't give up hope. People are looking for you. People care. And one day, you'll be free too. The cameras flashed. Questions were shouted. But the families retreated to waiting vehicles, leaving the media to chase the story without them. I started toward my truck, but Rebecca Miller caught up with me. May, wait, I turned. She looked better than she had 6 months ago, still marked by years of grief, but lighter somehow, like she'd finally set down a weight she'd been carrying. I never properly thanked you, she said, for everything, for not giving up, for finding my daughter when everyone else had moved on. Her voice broke. I can't repay that. I can only say thank you and promise that we'll never forget what you did. You don't need to thank me, I said. I just did what anyone would have done. No, she shook her head. Most people gave up. Most people moved on with their lives. You didn't. You kept looking even when it seemed hopeless. That's not what anyone would do. That's what heroes do. She hugged me before I could protest, held on tight for a moment, then let go and walked back to her family. I stood alone in the parking lot, watching families reunite, watching justice, imperfect, complicated justice, unfold in real time. Tom appeared beside me. You okay? Yeah, just tired. You're always tired these days. Maybe time to slow down? I smiled. Maybe, after one more hike. There's always one more hike with you. That's the point. We walked to our vehicles together, old friends, comfortable silence. The verdict was in, the guilty were convicted, the innocent were free. It wasn't perfect, but it was done. The memorial dedication happened on a Saturday in late April. Spring had truly arrived, wildflowers pushing through dead leaves, birds building nests, the smell of earth warming after winter's sleep. The whole town turned out. Maybe 300 people gathered at the trail junction where Scout had first veered toward the hidden cave. Emma and Lily were there, looking healthier now. Emma had started college, psychology, hoping to help other trauma survivors. Lily was painting again, using art to process what she'd been through. Marcus stood with them, taller than 6 months ago, more confident. He'd been hiking with me every week, learning the mountains the way his sister had before she was taken. Rebecca Miller and Thomas Chen stood together, united by a shared experience if nothing else. Both of them healing, both of them learning to live with ghosts, and Claire was there, my daughter, visiting from Singapore with her husband Michael and their 6-month-old daughter. My granddaughter, Sarah, named after my mother. Claire had called me every week since the rescue, had listened while I processed everything, had forgiven me for years of distance, had decided to move back to the States next year, closer to Pine Ridge, closer to family. Sometimes miracles look like rescue helicopters. Sometimes they look like phone calls that rebuilt bridges. Mayor Hendricks gave a speech, the families spoke. Emma and Lily each laid a flower at the base of the memorial stone, yellow roses for hope. Then Tom called me forward. May Whitlow doesn't want recognition, he said, his voice carrying across the crowd. She's told me that about 100 times. Scattered laughter. But recognition isn't about what you want. It's about what you've earned. And May earned the respect of every person in this town. She earned the gratitude of 2 families who have their daughters back. And she earned the right to walk these mountains knowing she saved 2 lives most people had given up for dead. He pulled something from his pocket, a badge, deputy badge, honorary but official. May Whitlow, on behalf of Pine Ridge County and the state of Washington, I hereby appoint you honorary deputy and mountain rescue consultant. The badge is real, the authority's real, and if you ever need backup in those hills, he grinned. You know my number. I took the badge with trembling hands, felt the weight of it, the meaning. Frank Morrison, the hardware store owner who'd accused me at the town meeting, stood up in the crowd. I tensed. I owe you an apology, he said loudly. Public accusation deserves public apology. I was wrong. I was scared and angry and looking for someone to blame. And I blamed the wrong person. May Whitlow, I'm sorry. And I'm grateful. We all are. The crowd applauded. Some people were crying. I didn't know what to say. Didn't have words for this moment, so I just nodded. Accepted it. Let it wash over me. After the ceremony, after the crowd dispersed, I hiked back to the memorial site with Scout. Just the 2 of us, the way it had always been. The bronze plaque gleamed in the afternoon sun. In memory of resilience, Emma Miller and Lily Chen lost, September 14th, 2017. Found, January 17th, 2021. The mountains keep their secrets, but love finds a way. In honor of May Whitlow, Scout, and all who never stopped searching, I stood there in the silence, remembering the blood on snow, the cave entrance hidden behind ferns, the tally marks counting 1,247 days, Emma's bracelet, the cabin, the tower, Jennifer's knife, Marcus running to his sister, Lily's whispered question. It's over? Scout pressed against my leg. I scratched behind his ears. Good boy, I whispered. You saved them, Scout. Not me. You. His tail wagged. Once. Twice. Like he understood. I pulled out my trail journal. Famous now. Photographed for magazines and documentaries I'd declined to participate in. Turned to a fresh page. April 28th, 2021. Clear skies. Warm. The memorial's beautiful. But it's the living that matters. Emma starting college. Lily painting. Marcus learning to smile. Claire coming home with my granddaughter. That's the real memorial. Not bronze and stone, but breathing, growing, healing life. The mountains gave up their secret. The town found its soul. And me? I learned that being alone and being lonely are different things. I was alone here for years, but I'm not lonely anymore. There's work still to do, other missing people, other secrets. Agent Voss already called about a cold case in Oregon, but tonight I'll sit on my porch with Scout and Claire and baby Sarah and watch the sun go down on a good day, because some days are good. Some mysteries get solved, some lost things get found, and that's enough. That's everything. 6 months after the memorial dedication, I hiked back to the cave site. Not with FBI agents or tactical teams, just me and Scout, the way it had always been meant to be. October again, full circle. The air had that same crisp edge that promised winter, but this year felt different, lighter somehow. The cave entrance was sealed now, marked with a simple plaque. I stood there, running my fingers over the bronze letters, Emma and Lily's names, the dates, the inscription about resilience. Scout sat beside me, gray showing more prominently around his muzzle. He was getting older. We both were. Good boy, I said, scratching behind his ears. His tail thumped against the ground, twice. The way it always did when he was content. I thought about everything that had happened since that January morning. The trial, the verdicts, life sentences for all 3 defendants, Emma and Lily healing, slowly but surely, Marcus finding his way, my relationship with Claire restored, baby Sarah growing, laughing, reaching for everything with the fearless curiosity of someone who'd never known darkness. The mountains stretched out around us, vast and beautiful and full of their own stories. Some dark, some joyous, all of them part of the tapestry of this place I loved. I pulled out my trail journal one last time, opened to the final page, wrote, October 15th, 2021, the story's over, but the trail continues, and I'll keep walking it, one step at a time, as long as my legs carry me, because that's what we do. We keep walking, we keep looking, we keep hoping, even when the mountains keep secrets, even when winter comes, even when the way forward is unclear, we keep walking together. I closed the journal, tucked it back in my pack, called Scout. Come on, boy, let's go home. We headed down the trail into warm afternoon light, woman and dog, walking the familiar path, not away from darkness, but toward whatever came next. The mountains stood eternal, patient, beautiful, and somewhere in the distance I heard voices, laughter, life continuing despite everything because of everything. The work wasn't over. It never really was. But today was good. And that was enough. That was everything.